Hello, my fellow Argonauts. Thank you so much for joining me once again. This is the Aquarian Medium coming to you from the hills of Tennessee. We have some juicy juice to talk about. I have the full moon in Aquarius pulled up with the United States natal chart. The full moon will take place on July 23rd, 24th, depending on where you're located. This chart is for Nashville, Tennessee. The full moon will take place at 9:36 p.m. on July 23rd. So these are the energies that I'm going to briefly read, and I'm going to make connections with the United States as well as the Christ consciousness chart, because I think that that's what's most important. And that is how we can collectively see what is taking place within this new shift, this new creative shift that is a higher octave when we raise our vibrations to a higher state of awareness, which we are certainly doing at this time. There is a doorway that opens up with this chart at 12:55, and the 12:55 is calling on me, is a pattern for me. It's calling on me to discuss the medical side of what is hidden and what is going on. However, I do have that in my book, and hopefully it will be published sooner than later. But these diseases and that have been around for so long are attributed to childhood diseases, adult diseases that are not quite diseases. And when we came to the United States, created the United States in 1776, and then 13 years later, we established a president, George Washington. We came to liberate ourselves in order to experiment freely without the boundaries of medicine. And so the United States has built an empire with other leading countries that seeks to totally confuse the human genome. Our DNA is constantly in a state of change with the reading of our cells, and the electrons, the breaking away of the electrons in the atmosphere, in the soil, in our food. We are being constantly bombarded by microorganisms that are being used against us. It's a bioweaponry is what it is. So that doorway is definitely confirming that that is the case. There is going to be an intensity with the United States of America that's definitely showing up with the vertex 1914 with our health. With this doorway, there's a doorway that was open, is going to remain open with this vertex throughout the month of July and August, because we are understanding more about what is hidden at home and what is transpiring with this Mercurius energy, because they are so curious about the duality of life and death, rebirth, regeneration, that it is causing us to not be able to breathe with the electronics, the electrons in the environment, in our body. These microorganisms can terminate the breath in the body, creating an anaphylactic shock when we are consuming so much animal byproduct in our food, water, and lotions and soaps. These things are creating an electron breakaway from its hosts and spiral sheets feed off of these electrons. The electronics are creating a worldwide crisis with all kingdoms' magnetic fields. That is what I am showed today with that 1255 pattern. The pattern with the 2120 doorway is shown to me as well. This is my Mars in the 8th house that uncovers what is hidden, and it's in Capricorn, so I'm supposed to master this Mars energy. Instead of being aggressive, I am assertive. That's how I'm using it today. This 233 with trans Pluto with our health in the 6th house of health that is ruled by the sun, ruled by Leo. It is showing that the sun's feedback loop with its magnetic field is off of kilter as well. This higher state of consciousness goes back to the Christ consciousness. Vesta at 204, this balance with partnerships is going back to the Christ consciousness as well. We are having a Pluto return February 22nd that they have been using our health and wealth, the powers that be, to create these desires of teaching about the human body, the DNA, the transcriptions, how to read it, how to incorporate the machinery of the human being with the mechanics of the robotic intelligence. And so there's so much at play right now that I'm pretty mind boggled how to deliver it, which is the reason why I've written a book, because there's so much to talk about. We have to really go back to the beginning of this epoch. And the beginning of the epoch is definitely a Apollo type of energy where this physician is transformed. And this full moon in Aquarius with our values here on Earth has a lot of initiating energy here. And so this archetype of Eris, the leading goddess of strife and discord, reminds me of the Trojan War, right? And so this Trojan War, this Trojan virus is definitely a creation, and it's going back into the past. So now that Eris is going back into the past, we are reliving certain events in our times past. And these patterns of our times past want us to do something different. They want us to do something different instead of continuously hitting this brick wall. And while Pluto is in retrograde, there is a lot of undoing within the spectrum of death, rebirth, regeneration, and this powerful leadership within the government and how they are trying to hang on to these values that are in need of transforming. They are in need of a rebirth, a reset. And this is where the Great Awakening is taking place. It will take place with our sun, with volcanism, with earthquakes, and we are getting ready for that. A lot of people are detaching from the system, wanting to balance with the Christ energy of how we treat one another, how we treat the Earth's resources, and the feedback that is coming into our body is shown from the outside. And we can understand we have never needed to experiment with the human body with so many animals, birds, pigs, hogs, rats, rabbits, bats, monkeys, you name it. We have explored and have no boundaries. Centuries ago, there was not what we call a scientist. They were natural philosophers. And we are coming back into a time where natural philosophy takes hold with the way that we live, because the electronics are interfering with our cells biology down to the molecular, electronic, atomic level. We are needing to communicate in certain ways that do not affect the human body. However, it has been seen in our times past that it will occur in the age of Aquarius, and we will rise with this great awakening that brings us back together, back to the beginning with the garden of the mind and how we build it and seed it and weed it with this higher state of consciousness. Because where Christ is in your chart is going to dictate how you connect to him and your soul growth during this lifetime. As you can see with the United States, there are dark emotions that have taught them about the sun, the connection with the health, the connection with children, their health, their heart health, is in need, dire need of dissolving this Neptune in Virgo. Their immune system experiments bring a hell to the future in the collective. And we will see this more and more because these energies are connecting to the sun with Kronos. As you can see, Kronos is at 1323 during this full moon in Aquarius. It just went over the sun. This devouring emotional energy has everything to do with what they have been trying to understand with the wisdom at home by experimenting and understanding the haplogroups, the reflective receptivity of the family, genealogy. All that they do behind the scenes, that they teach and they understand about the cosmos, definitely goes back to Christ right here at the 2704. It goes back to Christ with the 1319. And so what we are seeing with these energies that are at play right now is a lot of connections being made to the United States chart as well as the Christ chart, because the Christ in us is what they are trying to experiment with this sickness of the magnetic fields. And so this 204 with Vesta is balanced. The higher octave about our health, about death, rebirth, and regeneration, and what's hidden is definitely a part of the Christ physician, where he shines the light at home with the higher mind, with this higher octave of trans Pluto. He is definitely communicating with you, whether you can understand that it's definitely from him or not. This higher state of consciousness is communicating with you, with your cells, with trans Pluto. And Vesta, the keeper of the flame of life and death, is in balance. She is going to balance us for the future, because Vesta is also at 204 with him, where he talks about the sun, where he talks about him being the sun, is where the Vatican is going to have these papers that talk about the sun and how the sun is going to react because that is where he was devouring his energy, and it brought him discord about the future, death, and he was definitely the teacher, teaching us about the food, about the intuition, about connections, about energies. And this hell that he experienced within the government, the governing bodies, has passed us as well. There's so much that's going on that's at play right now. We really need to pay attention to our inner self rather than the lies in the airwaves, because the airwaves are making us sick. This connection that we want to have with other people, we are naturally connected anyway. So when we bring the electronics into our persona, into our magnetic field, there is a communication that is taking place, and it's an interference of communication. So there's too much that's being bombarded with this feedback loop, with the sun, with our heart, with our health, and they want to use us. When the magnetic field depletes, they want to be able to use the human body to provide the electromagnetic field to the earth, which we are definitely able to do naturally. Nothing has to be done with the human body in order to make this happen. So these connections with the wisdom of the future is going to come. It's going to come, and there will be a great reset, a great awakening. And that is in the works right now. We are definitely feeling these energies knocking on the door. We know what's coming. We can try to prepare if we want, but at the end of the day, the best preparedness is the spiritual preparedness. Because our communications on earth, there is going to be a disruption, and the 5G is going to have to be reset anyway. They are all in space right now, so it would be hard to believe that anything is going to actually transpire. Is it a natural occurrence that our grid will be knocked down? The power that the collective has is so much more powerful than the governing bodies, because we are able to free ourselves when we surrender to the creative forces that beckon us to surrender. So we may be more in tune with the earth and what is on the horizon as far as solar flares, volcanoes. Everything is going to speed up, and it's going to seem like things are just happening at once. And it's because there is going to be a snowball effect that is created when the earth is ignited by such energy from the sun. This is not a time to be in fear. This is a time to really empower yourself with the energies at bay, and to come into an agreement with other people, with your differences, coming into an agreement with unity and diversity, and allowing other people to just be themselves. Every journey is just not the same, and we are here to do certain things in the world that don't have anything to do with any type of petty drama. We just have to understand that we are powerful, powerful spiritual beings, and we are contained in a body. This vehicle, this ship, this Argo is definitely a cosmic form. And as Neptune comes down in the degree of 2255 in Pisces, we are going to see massive dissolving of what has been hidden. God is definitely going to be showing up in your life, in the collective life. And these energies are just super duper big. Get connected to Christ, meditate, work on your breathing, as this is a huge marker for humanity with this full moon in Aquarius. There's so much that is coming, and we have to be open to what that truth is. And your intuitive self, your higher self, will not be able to ignore the truth. Hygeia coming into Virgo, Venus coming into Virgo is setting the stage for a health crisis, a public health crisis. And Christ Apollo is definitely shining the light on the issues with our health. And it goes back to the animal byproduct that is in everything now. We are so hurting our bodies, and they are banking off of it. With their different stories of how it came about and what's going on. And look, there's a microorganism bioweapon that is trying to form against us. It is forming against us, but we have a power greater than that within. So be sure and use it. It is your power with God. With the sun being in Leo and Vulcan being at a critical degree, we can definitely expect issues with asteroids, issues with the sun, all kinds of geomagnetic conditions are calling on us to do something different. Detach from the broken systems, liberate yourself. Uranus is all about freedom, freedom with the Holy Spirit, freedom with the gift of prophecy, individual, eccentric journeys that we celebrate differences instead of the lower octave of Lilith having the petty gossip as she has just now come into Gemini. So wherever Gemini is for you is where Lilith is challenging you to rise above the petty gossip. Where Capricorn is for you is where these desires, the teaching of the transformation, the leadership in the world, this is calling on you as well to rise up with the responsibility of leadership. Where Pisces is where the Jupiter energy is at a 0-0, constantly regenerating, wanting to show you different aspects of mental exploration. Mercury being in Cancer is calling on us all to have this duality within our higher mind, to understand the medical astrology at home, on Earth, with our mom, with the haplogroup, this breathing, this I can't breathe theme. Mercury relates to the lungs. And with Mercury in Cancer, with Kronos, with Hades, there is an emotional devouring weight with the medical astrology of the lungs. And what is really going on is definitely hidden, because it has to dissolve. The Neptune has to dissolve. And as it's dissolving in Pisces in its own sign, and it'll be there until 2026, we are going to dissolve and really understand the God within, the Christ consciousness within, and how these connections are numbers. When you see a time and it says 9/11, there's probably a doorway that's opening up in the magnetic field of energy, that if I were to pull that exact event, when you saw 9/11, there's going to be a 9/11 in the doorway of love. It's just a frequency that you are connecting to, literally. The United States is definitely being called to let go of their pleasures with the values, and they are being called on to transform these values, let go of the monetary pleasures and become at one, because Neptune in Pisces wants oneness. And the Sedna right now is transiting at 2908, which is calling on us to let go of the earthly material world, connect to your inner temple. This is how we are going to raise the vibration of the earth, ourselves, one another, and be able to literally heal each other with a touch, with a word of prayer. And so these energies are so strong right now with the Christ consciousness. And as we go back into the past with Eris, with the Trojan War, when we go back into the past with the Neptunian energy of the oneness with Christ, when we go back into our times past with Pluto, the death, rebirth, and regeneration, we can understand that the I am, those rivers that separate and flow down our spine, are rising, wanting us to be our own physician, lead the world with truth. That is the Aquarian theme. And as Jupiter comes back into Aquarius with Saturn, we are going to understand more about what limits and obstacles there are for us in the future. So next week, through the weekend, through this month, the 30 days, July 23rd until the next full moon, we are going to have a lot of change, much needed change, that will set us on a great path for the future to build structures that last, that are not built on lies. And that is the Aquarian theme of letting go of the I can't breathe theme. We have to evolve and we have to unite. This is what the way of Christ shows. We have to let go. We have to let go of the governing bodies, detach, and create communities where we help one another. And that is the way that I'm going to end this full moon in Aquarius video. If you would like a personal read, please reach out to me. The link is below. And I will be back delivering videos at least a few times a week, trying to get the word out that the Christ in you is not just rising, it has risen. It has risen, and there is no burden on us. We're not going to miss our mark. We are doing exactly what we are supposed to be doing. We are, no matter what it looks like for you, how it looks in your life, you are on the path that you came here to be on. So rise in that journey and connect to other people and tell them that your journey is not theirs. The dark moon in Gemini has a lot of power. And I think that we're definitely going to see that with the sun in Leo, the sun. So be aware. Don't be in fear. Fear will just take your body down through there. It's nothing productive with fear. Be aware and not fear. All right. So until next time, we'll see you guys.